Hello, fourth grade. Today we are looking at patterns with the moon. So we have set up here our sun and earth system, and we're missing our moon. Our moon is going to be some Oreos. Okay, so for our model today, we are going to use our Oreos, and I'm going to just very carefully kind of break these apart into halves. And some of the things that we need to remember is that what we see from the moon does not produce its own light. So the light that we see when we see the moon outside, whether it's a daytime or nighttime, is actually light that is reflected from the sun. So if I have my system here, now I have my empty Oreos are my new moon. This is what we do not see in the night sky. And my icing on my Oreos is what we do see. This is the light being reflected from the sun. And so if I'm standing here on the R in Earth, then this is what I can see when I look up into the sky. Okay, so if I place a new moon right here, that means that the sun's light is hitting on this backside and we don't see it. So on Earth, we see a new moon. It looks blank, like there's no moon outside. And directly opposite that, we will have a new moon. Now we also know that we don't just see those two, and we're trying to, look for some patterns and sequences here. So I'm going to take half of my icing from one of my Oreos, and it's not going very nicely. We're going to place it over on there, and we're going to say that it's half. It just doesn't look very pretty. Okay, just trying to make that work there. So there's half, and remember, the sun is always reflecting, so we're always going to see the reflected side. It's always being hit by the sun. Okay, so here on Earth, it looks like we're seeing half of a moon, or a quarter of the moon, because if we look at it right now, pull those off, we've got 4 quarters. Okay, and so this is a quarter moon. And then we've got those in-betweens because we know that we've got the pretty crescent moon. I'm going to try really hard to make a crescent moon with my icing. Hopefully it does not turn out looking really bad, but I don't think it's going to look really great either. And if you are able to do this and do it better, share some pictures with your teachers, because I'm sure they would love to see the great looking pictures too. Okay. Oh, that looks terrible, but we're going to roll with it and make it work. Science in action. We get messy. We make mistakes. Okay, so there's my first crescent. And then opposite that, we've got our gibbous. And remember, it is not super important that we remember all of these names in 4th grade. It's cool to know them, but we don't have to memorize them all. And so we've got to have the same thing over on the opposite side. And again, this is off camera, and it's terrible looking. You'll see it in just a moment. Feel free to giggle. It's all right. I'm giggling too. Oh my goodness. Okay. So there's my other crescent moon and my other gibbous moon. I'm going to lick some of that icing off my fingers because I can. All right. So we know that if we are standing here on Earth and we're looking, the light on the right, so the light on the right, if we're standing here, we're going to see it on the right. So the moon, the orbit actually goes counterclockwise from what we would think. Now, if we're looking at this, does this really make a pattern? Think way back to like what you guys do in math. And when we do patterns, we go red, blue, blue, red, blue, blue. What comes next? Right, blue, blue. Okay, this does not create a pattern all by itself. It creates a pretty nice sequence. So if we start with the new moon, I'm going to pull in a paper towel here. I'm going to line all of these up. So if I go, let me pull this over here, that way you guys can see it. So if I start with my new moon and then go to my crescent, my half, my gibbous, my full, then we go back to a gibbous and then back to a half and then back to a crescent. And so now we're beginning to see, here's a sequence. And then if I look again, then it goes, happen to have another set that my daughter did for me. She was super excited. She's just ready to eat the Oreos. And so I want you to think, do we now have a pattern? Did we complete the sequence, and does the sequence repeat? So here we've got, if this was October, this one would be November, and then we could have another row for December, and it continues every single month of the year, and that creates our pattern. Okay, and so if you guys were able to do this little activity with me and with some Oreos, then you've got a treat now. And your teacher has some additional instructions for you to follow. Thanks for joining me today, guys. Until next time.